Tell me what he did to you. Mama sat in her armchair next to the range and leaned in to offer me a fag. Go on, she said. Take it, waving the silk cut before me like a tubular flag. I stared at the cigarette as though mesmerized. Suddenly, the small space between us swelled with the weight of unspoken years. I marveled at the comfort such a simple object could lend to a moment like this. I'd waited 15 years for Mama to ask this very question. Had hoped and prayed for it, till even that too had died in me. I raised my head slowly, all movement impeded by a gravity that took me by surprise. Sometimes you wait so long for something that when it happens, you think maybe you're dead. I reached out and took her offering, turning it over and over in my fingers as though to verify my place in the solid world. Mama rose from her armchair, both of us hugging the turf range at right angles to temper the creeping cold of the century-old stone house that we now shared. I was 20 years of age, had slipped into my role as local school teacher just before Dada died, and was suddenly ensnared in a village life I'd never wanted. Here, Mama said, a rare gentleness in her tone that surprised me. Let me make you another hot whiskey, and then tell me what he did to you, for God's sake. I couldn't look at her. Shame rising up in me like a scalding fever, burning my ears at the mention of him and all the things he'd done, the things that surely made me a tramp and a hussy. What brought this on, I wondered, racking my brain over what we'd just watched on the Late Late Show with Gay Byrne, or what the news might have mentioned this evening. If some small sniff was out there in the general public, maybe that finally made it all right for her to bring it up in here with me. Mama picked the strands of thought from my mind as though we were one. I couldn't ask you till Dada died, she said, filling the glass halfway with Jemison at the kitchen table. He wasn't able for this kind of thing. He wasn't able for much of anything with his heart. Do you not think I wanted to know? But I couldn't ask you. I'm asking now, though, so don't be mad at me. Just tell me. I tucked my legs under me in Dada's armchair. I'd been sitting here every night for the 3 months since his passing, as though soaking up the remaining essence of all his years in this very spot. Mama topped up the glass from the steaming kettle, aiming the water at the metal spoon. Will you tell me? Mama said again, stirring the brown sugar from the bottom. Tell me what he did to you. I wanted it to be like I'd seen in the films. I wanted to burst out crying and tell her all the awful things that had happened when I was 5 and 6 and 7. I wanted to tell her I still wasn't right, that I couldn't bear the sight of men in jam jar glasses, or couldn't stand the smell of major cigarettes, or the sound of someone whistling for a dog, thinking they were calling me the way he did. I wanted to stuff the whole lot into this single exchange in case she changed her mind. She could do that very well. Could tell you one minute she was ready to hear something, and could decide in the next that she didn't remember even asking. I knew what that was like, because I did that too. Went from kind to cruel while you'd be tying your shoelace. But that didn't make it any easier to swallow the habit in someone else. I wanted to ask her why she didn't once let on in all those years that she'd known all along. Why hadn't she said something? Even if she hadn't put a stop to it. If she'd asked that very question years ago, what did he do to you? I would have known at 10 and 11 and 12 that it wasn't my fault. It would have been inherent in the question. I wouldn't have minded the poking as much after that. I might even have been spared the now ingrained notion that killing myself was the answer to all ills, small and large. But then, I started hearing other things in her question. Things like, what did he do to you? Meaning, why aren't you normal? It wasn't there, but it was. That lingering accusation directed at me, as though I was something damaged, something altered, something lost. I cleared my throat and met her gaze. Mama, leaning forward in her chair, desperation etched onto her face, a longing to have time, be kind, and have us address the past the way it should have been handled, as though we were normal, like the people on television who were so good at feelings and talking about inside things. I wanted so badly to say my neighbor's name, to vilify him even once. But my throat just tightened and my chest hardened, as though my body knew only one way to do this. The silence inside took me by surprise. This sheer numbness in the face of this long-awaited question. Please, Mama said, shoving the hot whiskey closer. Drink this and tell me. I studied the amber liquid, cloves settling on the bottom like tiny boulders. I took a deep breath, Mama's head jerking toward the elixir like she was sure it would cure me. I began, my mind blank as the beach at high tide. He broke me. She sat back, almost relieved, as if I'd handed her something that could indeed be fixed. He did not break you, she said, arms folded across her chest in palpable defiance. There's not a thing wrong with you, not a single thing.